Welcome to another podcast of Master Investor. Glad to be here again with another valuable talk on money, business, and investing. Remember, our mission is to elevate the financial well-being of humanity through high-quality financial education made simple with lucrative opportunities to build passive income and true wealth. I'm going to drop a link in the description so that you can visit our website and download our ebook, How to Build Cash Flow with the Internet, Turn Passive Income On, whenever you're ready to start building wealth and begin your investing journey. Or if you have an existing business and you would like to scale that or scale your bottom line, your passive income, then go to our website. There you'll find resources, tools, digital ebooks, digital courses, and much more to help you build passive income and true wealth. Also, follow us on all platforms. Look for the logo. And if you have any questions, let us know. We would like to interact and give you as much feedback as we can as we go through this journey together. Today, we're going to be speaking about the importance of how to pay ourselves first to build wealth. The real meaning of pay ourselves first and the reasons why wealthy people don't save money. Who do people pay first when they get a paycheck? If they are like the majority of Americans, they probably pay the rent or mortgage, grocery, electricity, car payment, insurance, government, through taxes and other bills first. They typically paying themselves last. Situation is when they finish paying all their bills and put what's left over, if anything, into their savings account. Then they repeat the process while eagerly awaiting their next payday. The American rat race is that. But we are doing everything wrong if we ever want to escape the rat race. The concept of paying oneself first is an important lesson. It still applies today, regardless of how the world will change. Paying ourselves first will help us create wealth faster. Also, business and investing is a team sport. Getting a bookkeeper with the intention of having a clear understanding of our financial condition, because it is time to take responsibility. The bookkeeper will assist in realizing the way we manage our cash flow, if we are putting anything for our wealth, or what we're doing with the capital that we are handling, right? That's the whole key, to figure out, even before we get that income, we already have a plan of action to make that money work hard for us into an asset, into financial education, things that will improve our bottom line, our passive income. Every penny will show where it's allocated to pay our expenses first. The shortest path to poverty is in paying ourselves last. And the path to wealth is paying ourselves first. Getting ourselves paid first. Started making behavioral changes and choose to pay ourselves and their debts first. Whether it makes sense or not, people set aside a certain amount of money each month and add it to our asset column. Even though our cash flow is less than our bills, we must make sure to give this column top priority by treating it like a cost or expense. In other words, we put ourselves as an expense. You see, a lot of times, majority of people actually put themselves last, and there's no money left after they pay all their bills if they put themselves last. So they have no money to invest in financial education. They have no money to go maybe to network places where are like-minded people. They don't have money to cover an emergency. And a lot of times people end up doing that same pattern the rest of their lives. And that's what we're going to change right here, is to first get your wealthy mindset on and have the spirit of the entrepreneur in you, and then execute actions that align with the spirit of an entrepreneur, and of course the mindset of a wealthy person. Okay, that's why financial education is key, because otherwise fear will kick in when you don't know how to do something. So the way we calculate risk, because investing in business comes with risk. When we're starting a company out, when we're doing any type of venture, we are going to experience risk. And it's all about putting all the pieces of the puzzle working together, aligned towards the mission and the vision of the business, right? So there's risk with anything. However, the more financial education we have, the more calculated risk we can take. We will know exactly whether that is going to work or not, okay? So fear kicks in when a person has a lack of financial education. Okay, so we have to put ourselves as an expense, the first expense on our expense column. We have to demand that, hey, we gotta get paid first, because it means that we are investing for our future and our freedom. Okay, the only person in the world that will take you to financial freedom and true wealth is ourselves, is you and I, right? So we have to understand that. That's why putting ourselves on our expense column as an expense that must be required to get paid every single month or every time money comes in, then we will become ultra wealthy by applying that method, and we will get out of any bad debt that you feel that maybe is keeping you a slave to pay that payment off. And the way we do it, and we're going to talk about it in this podcast today, is how we can take steps towards covering bad debt, getting out of bad debt. Sometimes we want to have the bad debt. Maybe it's a car, a luxury car that we like to drive. It doesn't make us money, but it's something that we like, so that's considered bad debt. And all we have to do is create or acquire a cash flowing asset that is producing more than the payment of that car, and that way we can pay the car payment with the cash flow of the asset. So we're not working hard to pay for that liability. We enjoy it, and that's the way we do it. The wealthy, we always position ourselves in a way that we obtain everything for free legally, and we pay zero in taxes because we're using debt. Debt is how money is created today. That's why debt is tax free. So whether we are using debt for liabilities or assets, we pay zero taxes on debt. That's what's important, to get comfortable using debt to invest for passive income, because it's a perfect way to minimize taxes all the way to zero and be a tax-free entity. The highest expense we all have are taxes. So we can minimize that entirely, then we are on the right track towards unlimited wealth and being tax-free entities, okay, legally. So having a team is critical, okay? So make sure you get a bookkeeper, invest in that, right? So that money that we are getting every single month, because we are paying ourselves first, it's going to go towards our investment team. We need a bookkeeper. We need certain people in place so that we can begin building our assets. And it's better to invest in those people now rather than later, because it's going to cost more money later, because they have to come back and fix something like legalities, right? You have to have your documents properly filed with the state in which you're going to be doing your entity to run your first asset, okay? So talk to a business attorney, talk to a right CPA. A lot of times we can find these third parties online So today everybody's going digitally. Therefore, we have a lot of competition and the cost goes down. So you can actually take advantage of those feasible prices online, okay, to file your entity, to handle all the legalities of that entity, ensuring that it's properly filed with the right structure, designated with the right tax designation, so that you can keep more into your packet, right, legally, more cash flow without paying taxes. So when we look at the financial statement, we're going to find that we have an income statement and we have the balance sheet. An income statement has the income column and the expense column, and then the balance sheet has the assets and liabilities. So our goal as entrepreneurs and inside investors, or a master investor, right, because an inside investor is a master investor, is to focus on building our asset column, to acquire assets that produce passive income and capital gains. At times we're going to maybe flip a property or something to gain the profits so that we can roll them over into a new asset. But we must keep the gains and the positive cash flow that we're getting from our assets working by investing it in other assets that will produce passive income or capital gains. So the other story of the money world is how the poor people handle their cash flow, right? Because they're getting income coming in maybe from a job, and that's the only way that they earn money, okay? And I'm talking about the mindset is poor, and then also behavior is poor, because remember, it starts with the mindset. Once we shift our mindset to a wealthy mindset, then we will act differently with money, with everything, okay? So follow the patterns of the wealthy and rip away any poor habit that we may have, okay? It's all about shifting our mindset first. So when a person has a job and they have that income from the paycheck, it's called earned or ordinary income, and it's taxed at the highest bracket. That's why when the employees get their check, they have taken all the taxes out and other things. About half of their check has been ripped apart, and the government didn't even show up to work. So the employees pay the highest in taxes when it comes to paying taxes on income. Okay, so that's earned income is taxed at the highest bracket. So the pattern of the poor will be getting that paycheck and running that through the income column, right? Because it comes into the income column and it goes down to the expense column on the income statement, and it will go down out the expense column to somebody else's asset column, okay? Because every expense that the poor person, or maybe they have liabilities too, so that it will actually go from the job to the money will flow from their job to the income column, and it goes down outside to the liability column, because it has to run through that and pay those payments, and go up the expense column because all the liabilities payments will be listed on the expenses column, and it will go out the expense column to somebody else's asset. If you're at the bottom, if the person's at the bottom, they have maybe no liabilities and they just have expenses. So either way, the money flows out of their financial statement into somebody else's asset column. And the holy grail is to keep that money coming back to our asset column, okay? Because we are reinvesting and we are acquiring more assets, so we should have good expenses. It's not about shrinking our expenses. It's actually about expanding and having good money habits when it comes to spending money, right? So we have to actually live above our means and expand our assets, expand our passive income, okay? So we have to grow, and we do not save money, or we do not cut expenses. All we do, we focus on our asset column to build and acquire assets that produce passive income into our income column, and with that income we will pay the liabilities and expenses, and we will bring that money back as much as we can, bring that back into our asset column, because we can always turn our liabilities, majority of our liabilities, into assets, because it's somebody else's asset column. A liability on our liability balance sheet, that is somebody else's asset on their asset column. So we can always turn that liability into an asset on our balance sheet, and then it still be an asset to that other individual or entity which we do in business, which holds that liability, okay, who's receiving the payment of that. But I'll give you an example. Let's say if we have 2 Teslas. One you will use to rent out on Turo, an app that is like Airbnb. You put your Tesla there, it rents out every day for $500. The payment of that Tesla is $1,000, let's say a month. 2 days will be required to pay the entire payment of that Tesla, and all of the rest of the days will be positive passive income, right? Positive cash flow. So that Tesla now becomes an asset because it's making us money, and we're still making money to the Tesla company, whoever lend us the money to lease that car or purchase or finance that car. So it's still their asset, and of course it's making us money. So we can always turn a liability into an asset with financial education. You have to be able to see the opportunity and structure it correctly, okay? So let's continue here. It is possible that we are thinking, I thought we were going to share a story, but those are just pictures of the financial statements. As the saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can find this article on our website. I'm going to put the link below. Make sure you visit our website and get the ebooks, the 10 New Rules of Money, and how to build cash flow with the internet. The life changers for those who apply the information that is found inside those ebooks, okay? You gotta apply it. You gotta turn the information into knowledge. Try to identify some of the difference between the 2 stories by carefully studying the aforementioned diagrams. Financial savvy people can recognize key differences in the narrative they share. The acts of people who adhere to the pay ourselves first principle are shown in the first diagram. Before we pay our monthly bills, we allocate funds each month to our asset column. The activities of people who pay others before they pay themselves are shown in the second diagram. They set aside money each month for their expenses and use the remainder, which is typically little to zero, to save or invest without financial education. The people in the rat race are depicted in this diagram as being destitute regardless of how much money they earn. Understanding the importance of cash flow can help us recognize the flaws in the second diagram. Because of this, 90% of people put in a lot of effort throughout their lives and depend on government assistance like Social Security once they are no longer able to work. They pay themselves last, which is the cause and a majority of reasons why they have financial trouble in the future and right now in the present. We need the self-control to prioritize paying ourselves first if we want to be wealthy. This simply refers to investing our income in cash flow and assets prior to paying our debts, bad debts, or treating ourselves to something pleasant. As a result, we will earn more passive income, which we may use to buy more assets with positive cash flow. If we do that, we will have more money than we can possibly need. Paying ourselves first is difficult. In fact, it might even be frightful, particularly if the debts are mounting. But to do that, we must cultivate discipline. Okay? So we have to create a plan. We have to learn how to manage the money that is coming in and treat every dollar as our employee. We tell it what to do. We make sure that we are the masters of each and every dollar that goes through our hands, and we tell it where to go work and bring more cash flow back. The 10-10-10 plan is the following. The 10-10-10 strategy is a great plan of action that anyone can implement to begin creating wealth. We divide 30% of our earnings each month in the following ways. 10% for investments. We set aside 10% of our monthly income as a reserve for excellent investment possibilities. Usually we decide to invest in real estate or other assets that produce positive cash flow instantly. 10% emergency. We set aside 10% of our income each month for unseizable events and unique possibilities. This wasn't an emergency account meant to last a lifetime, instead to invest even more. 10% tithing or charity. And because we firmly believe that we must give in order to get, we set aside 10% of our total income each month for tithing or charitable giving to causes we are passionate about. Generosity is key when building wealth. Changing habits. First, avoid taking on bad debt that we will have to repay with our own time and efforts. We can only acquire bad debt when we have an asset that will pay for that bad debt every month. Reduce our spending on liabilities until we can have assets that will provide the cash flow to pay for that payment of those liabilities. So there's nothing wrong with having liabilities, but there's something wrong when there are no assets to pay for those liabilities. Create assets first, later purchase the large home or luxury vehicle we want with the cash flow of the business we have built or acquired. Expend our good expenses and invest capital actively. Second, rather than using our assets or saving as a safety net when we run into financial trouble, go ahead and let the pressure develop. As we can see, the poor have bad habits. One of these bad practices is using funds to pay bad debts. Use the pressure to motivate our financial whiz to come out with fresh ways and ideas to earn more money with assets, which we can then use to pay our expenses. Bonus. Our capacity to earn more passive income will have risen, as will our financial acumen. Let's assume that our monthly income is around $4,000. We will have $3,500 left over after paying ourselves $500 to cover living expenses. We will have paid ourselves $6,000 after a year. To avoid the temptation of spending the money on liabilities, we can even have our bank set this up to happen automatically. The money has to have a plan before we even get it, so that we know where it's going to work hard for us. Do not be a saver if you want to be wealthy. One of the most common pieces of conventional financial advice is to save money. However, most people do not become or remain wealthy through saving. In actuality, saving is a surefire way to lose for the great majority of people. Why? Due to the fact that inflation frequently increases faster than the interest rates savers receive on their money. Their savings are actually losing money the entire time they are in their bank account. While the wealthy mindset, good debtors, we are borrowing that money to invest, which is the savers' money, provided to us by the banks. Let's choose a good round figure like $100 to demonstrate this. By the end of the year, we will have $101.50. If we have that much in savings earnings, the typical interest rate offered by banks today of 1.5%. Unfortunately for the saver, inflation is currently 8.3%, so that they could currently buy for $100 will now cost $108.30. That represents a $6.80 difference. If they multiply that over time, we can experience a significant decline in their money purchase value. Worse still, money is a form of currency. It expires if it doesn't continue to move. That's why the most important words of the business language are cash flow. Sad to say, people who save money never put it to work for them, which prevents them from becoming wealthy. Because of this, we educate individuals to spend money wisely rather than train them to save it. Too much bad debt to get wealthy? Sometimes it takes bad debt to spark the entrepreneur spirit to make better decisions when it comes to spending money. It can help us become creative and invest debt into assets that will produce excess of cash flow, passive income. The following advice will help us get out of bad debt and position ourselves to becoming ultra wealthy. Step 1. First, stop accumulating bad debt right away. Put an end to contributing to bad credit card debt. If you're going to be using your credit card, it's for an asset, it's to build your asset column. So yes, invest debt, invest credit, raise capital for passive income, invest it and put it to work. Treat it as if it's money in your hands, because it is. That's what money is debt. Okay, so and when we use debt, as I mentioned, it's tax-free legally. Step 2, to ensure that everything is properly organized and accounted for, make a list of every bad debt or any type of debt we have: credit cards, student loans, vehicle loans, personal loans, etc. And step 3, the next step is to hire a bookkeeper so that we can run away from the reality of our finances. This person will keep precise records each month so that we always know where we stand. And even if we don't want to admit it, we will have somebody to keep us accountable for our decisions when it comes to paying ourselves first and, of course, spending money. Okay. We need to know exactly where our money is going. What are we going to do with the money that is coming in? And we have to put it to work. We got to pay ourselves first, okay? So once we hire a bookkeeper, right? That's step 3. We go move to step 4. The 10-10 plan is a step 4, right? We have to now make sure we pay ourselves first. We got to put 10% for charity. We have to put 10% for emergency, which ultimately will go back to investing. Okay, we want to continue investing, get in the habit of having a wealthy investor mindset, and of course, have that entrepreneur spirit always in you. Everything that you see from now on is with the entrepreneur's set of eyes. Everything has to be with how can I profit, how can I make positive passive income from this operation, from connecting this deal, okay, from bringing these people together and connecting a deal that is a win-win for everybody, right? We talk about integrity, fairness, loyalty, respect, and ethics. Okay, we gotta keep our hands clean and make sure that all parties are transparent of what we are getting involved with, so that we can all create positive cash flow together and everybody is winning. Okay, and that way the deal will sustain any type of economy and will hopefully last a lifetime and even more. When we do things the right way, when we build and acquire real assets, they will be here forever. Okay, at least until the end of times. So let me continue here. So after consulting with our bookkeeper, we can make the decision to deduct a predetermined portion from each dollar that enter our pockets and set it aside with a plan to invest the money to create cash flow. We start paying ourselves first at this point. Okay, so 3 money banks, right? Piggy banks, whatever you want to call it, can be set up. 1 for emergency, 1 for the charitable giving, and 1 for investments. Each receives a fixed percentage of 10%, totaling 30% of the earnings that we have right now. Remember that we don't have to start with 30%. but we should stick with it each month, whatever we choose, and raise it when we can. Step 5, decide which debts should we pay off in what order. I'm talking about bad debt, right? Starting with the smallest and working our way up. Pay only the minimum monthly payments on all other debt. After paying off our first bad debt, which is the lowest, move on to the second lowest loan, and so forth. Stay the course in step 6. Keep in mind that we must follow this plan every month. If we tell ourselves we will just break the plan this month, we won't develop the great habit to our path of creating ultimate wealth, and our bad debts won't disappear, which hinder our wealth creation. Clarity is essential. Some individuals misunderstand the phrase pay ourselves first when we hear, actually here is the phrase treat yourself first. They believe it to indicate spending money carelessly. In contrast, the goal is to intentionally add to the asset column so that one can invest our money and make it work for ourselves. This is when the saying any money in the asset column stays in the asset column comes into play. For instance, when we begin to invest, we can start with small deals and work ourselves to bigger deals. It takes the same amount of energy to do a bigger deal than to a small deal, but sometimes we have to start with the small ones to build up the confidence, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. The important point is that we get started, we execute, okay? So we turn information, the financial education that we're learning, and we apply instantly into our lives. Okay, so at the end of this podcast, what are you going to do? That's the question. What are we going to do? How are we going to create our first or acquire our first asset? We're going to make sure we can read our financial statement and know exactly what liabilities are bad debt, right? What is bad debt? What can be turned into good debt from a liability column, and how can we turn that into an asset, right? That will create passive income. So a lot of times you have resources and you already have opportunities in front of you that you can turn into an asset. So make sure that you know exactly what is the story behind your financial statement so that you understand how to improve it and how to become wealthy fast. Because with the technology that we have today, we can become wealthy very quickly, okay? So do not underestimate the ability to become ultra wealthy fast, okay? Don't underestimate that, because you have to be ready to see the opportunity so that you can catch new trends and we can begin to build that asset column with real assets that produce passive income, okay? And then once we start building that foundation with our first assets, then we can move into acquiring bigger assets. It only requires discipline and financial education, okay? So always strive with the formula of velocity of cash flow. We talk about the 5 different steps. Number 1, acquire a cash flowing asset. Number 2, recoup the capital invested back as soon as possible. Number 3, keep control over the asset. Number 4, invest the cash flow generated into a new asset that generates positive cash flow, passive income. Step 5 is repeat the steps, okay? The wealthy don't reduce expenses, instead we raise them. This does not imply that do not appreciate finer things in life. Saving money is something that the impoverished do. The wealthy do not make budget cuts. We instead ask, how can we afford that? The duty number of an entrepreneur is to raise capital, and the number 1 duty of an inside investor is to make money work hard in sound assets. Finding strategies to create money that don't involve depleting our asset column is necessary if we want to buy something good for ourselves. Simply put, look for assets that can generate enough cash flow to pay for our expenses and luxuries, including any type of liability. For instance, if we adore high-end cars, we desire fancy cars for a very long time, so we set to work to build an asset that produces passive income. We can discover fantastic assets that generate monthly income, passive income, cash flow to pay for the car. We can acquire anything as a result, increasing our asset column. The key message here is to never increase our bad debt by deducting from our asset column. Keep it in the asset column instead and keep adding to it so we can buy the goods we want for free, basically, because we're not physically working. The asset's going to be working for us and creating that passive income. Planning ahead for the real estate investments that will make us wealthier is a good idea. It's a good plan as we attempt to get our personal finances in order. So start investing in the different asset classes that exist. Remember, right now there are 5, and one of them is real estate. So another one is businesses, crypto, commodities, and paper assets. Okay, so we have to really focus on diversifying in the different asset classes that exist. That way we hedge for inflation and protect ourselves from down economies. Here at Master Investor, we don't predict the market because we know that the market goes up and down. What we do instead, we prepare ourselves for any type of economy, because a Master Investor will always know how to create positive cash flow with any type of economy. Okay, so the goal is to begin paying ourselves first. Check out the article if you like to see the diagrams, and also if you want to listen or read the article, How to Pay Ourselves First to Build Wealth, you can find it on our website and start implementing this strategy. Okay, I hope that this has been helpful today. I'm happy to be here again. We will talk tomorrow, and make sure that you take massive action. Okay, remember, today money is created with debt. That's why debt is tax-free, and that's why good debtors are winners and savers are losers. Bringing you the good and bad news of money, the business principles that work in all economies. Stay great and wealthy. Bye for now.